Given God's grace and time and all the other things that one needs, I came here to win the European Cup.
There must be 1 out of 5 not working in Sheffield, but yet he's still there. He's still there every week.
It's quite remarkable, really, that Sheffield stayed as buoyant and morale stayed as high as it has.
Howard Wilkinson and Peter Eustace, the pleasure they've brought to Sheffield in these times is marvellous.
Oh! Good play.
In the early 60s, when local lad Howard Wilkinson joined Sheffield Wednesday as a player, both club and city were riding high. First division football and full skilled employment. But they were both on the threshold of a steep decline, a decline that revealed a curious relationship in their fortunes.
I remember the year I came, or the season I came, it was perhaps only that season or a few seasons before that the players had not had to come in a collar and tie for training.
Well done.
The differences were inside, you know, something like a staff of 40 professionals, 13, 14 apprentices, both dressing rooms filled.
Full employment at the club was mirrored in industry. More than 99% of the city's workforce had a job.
Well, in '66, of course, we were still in boom times. Whether they were genuine boom times, perhaps with hindsight, you think they weren't. It was largely living on inflation. But we were busy. There was possibly still the aftermath of the war and still a lot of reconstruction all over the world. And there were plenty of orders. We'd all got good order books and could see good order books for quite a considerable time ahead.
We led Europe in the most up-to-date plant that there was. I went to some openings of plant here in the 60s and earlier, which were, well, the finest in the world, turning out bar steel, if you like, better than anyone else. And such large quantities that you could cope with anything that came along.
Close control of the reheating and rolling conditions, combined with the skill of the rolling mill team, permits the successful rolling of a wide range of special alloy steels used extensively by the aircraft, automobile and specialized engineering industries.
And here come the two teams. And it's Sheffield Wednesday on the right as we look at them.
66 when we went to final. I mean, it was boom time, it was fantastic. Yeah, I can remember it all as if it were yesterday, old match. When we scored after 7 minutes.
What's a good throw to Ford. Macalio got goal!
David Ford got second, then we were winning 2-0 and then disaster.
Chance of bad mistake by Jerry Young, it's Temple, and it's the third goal! Oh, what a tragedy for Jerry Young. Sheffield Wednesday, 2 up, now 3-2 down, and how long have we got left?
I cried in 66 coming out of Wembley. And like I said, well, I just come out with tears streaming out. Well, all of us did. I mean, it's our team and we got beat, but it was awful.
But there was still a job to go to on Monday. As the 60s came to an end, however, the steel industry was beginning to get the first bad vibrations.
I think we perhaps had lived in a bit of a dream world and we hadn't really seen all the danger signs of overmanning and costs mounting, and particularly I don't think we fully appreciated the danger of inflation in those days.
A lot of countries like Brazil and the Far East started making basic steel cheaper than we could. We lost customers. The heavy manufacturing industry itself changed. I mean, how many motor cars were we making in 1966? Probably 5, 6, 7 times as many as today. Locomotives, aviation. These were all industries that Sheffield Steel depended upon. They put their steel into the products which have died. And once the product dies, the market dies.
The club was the first to reflect on happier times as the team's performances and its support slumped dramatically.
During that time, the industry didn't progress or prosper, neither did its football. And this club indeed, which, as you must know, has got one of the best 8 stadiums in Europe, declined seriously. just escaping 4th division.
The last match of the season against Southend that saved us from the 4th division, we did have dark days, and I think none of us who came on to what was really a reconstituted board ever underestimated the challenge in front of us. It had never taken more than 10% of the domestic market. By 1977, it had got to 50%. And I think the real worry came perhaps in about 78 onwards, when the private sector had to start shedding jobs, and I think people then started to get worried about the decline of the steel industry.
Industry was starting to sort of get the knock at that time, and there was a lot of factories closing down, there was a lot of people becoming unemployed. The football in the city wasn't very much to sort of give people a lift, and it was pretty much a depressed area as far as support was concerned. You know, the crowds were down to 10, 12,000, and for a big club that size, it was sad, really.
Good on Jack Charlton. He did a good job for Wednesday. I mean, he went and sat in opposite stand to it, director sits in north stand. All fans are sat round him, knew they were struggling. Come on, Jack, like, come and take us over and get us put right. So he said, I will do it. When he didn't even go back home and think about it, he went straight out to the chairman and says, if you want me for a job, I'm here, like, bingo.
Jack's appointment in 1978 brought a vast improvement in the team's performances just when the city needed it most. But in football, you just can't please everyone.
We got Jack Charlton, and he, money-wise, stabilised the club, but football-wise, it was awful to watch. Awful. I mean, when Jack Charlton there, they got ball Wednesday, and you could go out, get a pie, come back, and they hadn't moved.
When the terraces were empty a few years ago, the story is that one of the players went to Jack Charlton and he says, Jack, he says, my old school want me to go back and tell them how to play at football. He says, what shall I tell them? So Jack studied, he says, tell them that's got flu.
Jack did a very good job for us. He got the playing side of the finances very much under his control. He got a lot of our own youngsters who were coming up through the junior teams, and he took a chance with them and pushed them in, and some of them are playing today and playing extremely well. And I think we've a lot to say thank you to Jack Charlton for.
A rejected pay claim and fears of massive redundancies led to a 3-month stoppage, and to make matters worse, Sheffield's unemployment rate doubled to 11.5%. Major restructuring was taking place in the nationalised sector of the steel industry, but for some famous private firms, a depressed market was to force their closure.
Just depressing when you look around places like this. A short while back, we took factory down the other side of here. You think, well, there were thousands of men working here, and there's just few now demolishing it, and there's no way will anybody be able to afford to build factories like we are knocking down.
Because it ought to have been left up for young uns. There ought to have been milling machines put in here to train lads for something like a future. Only one thing what can cheer us all up is investment in Sheffield, get thousands back to work, and a successful football team.
One stage of that plan for recovery is well underway. The return of 2 Sheffield Wednesday old boys to the club lifted the gloom over this depressed city. Many had doubts about Howard Wilkinson's appointment as manager, but he was ready for the challenge.
When I came here, I looked at the whole situation. I decided what I'd like to do, and I sat down and decided what I could do. Relative to the league we were in, relative to our pitch, relative to the players I'd got, relative to fixtures, relative to the expectations of the public. When I came here, I tried as much as I could to analyse the job, as I've done in the past, and then having analysed the job, lay down what I thought was necessary to achieve some sort of success in it.
I never thought I would have the opportunity of coming back to Sheffield Wednesday. But when Howard Wilkinson asked me to come back, I looked at him, looked at his pedigree, and it didn't take me very long to realise that this would be the place for possibly the next 5 or 6 years of my life anyway, and a very, very good place to work.
When you get such a guy as Howard Wilkinson and assistant Eustace, I mean, they're both from Sheffield lads, I mean, Eustace used to be Square of Stocksbridge. That's what he called him, because he got that much class when he played for Wednesday. Brilliant. Really, all of them to play for Wednesday. But, I mean, this feeling here, I mean, our Wilkinson, he could have had assistant manager's job with Bobby Robson, England. He refused that and come to Hillsborough. So, I mean, that shows what he thinks about the club, obviously.
I just feel that I better understand the people around here than perhaps I understand the people anywhere else, and I think that is an advantage. I also think that the same consideration applies the other way around. I think that maybe the supporters feel that as well, to a certain extent.
That relationship is special, for the supporters hold many of the shares in the club, the Owls to a Sheffielder. Collecting them has become a life's work for cradle-to-the-grave fan Brian Hodkin. He's got 87 and still going.
Well, when you're a Sheffield Wednesday supporter like what I am, you're just in love with Sheffield Wednesday, and Sheffield Wednesday are called the Owls, so we collect owls. I was 6 weeks old when I first went to see Wednesday. My dad took me, of course, and the star in those days was Jackie Robinson. And my dad always says, well, he's dead now, but he always used to say, first words I ever said were up the Owls. Then I said Sheffield Wednesday, and then I went on to Mum and Dad and rest at rubbish. And I haven't shut up since, have you noticed?
Morning sun, rising on an empty avenue.
Reminders of the recent past in Sheffield still haunt the city and its people. But from rock bottom, there's now only one way to go.
I think, first of all, we lift people by actually doing something environmentally about that. We put resources into the derelict areas to actually make them attractive, to try and get small businesses started, to put money behind initiative and ideas and innovation. It was, of course, ordinary people's skill and innovation and ideas that made the Industrial Revolution possible in the first place. We didn't go to Japan or America or someone overseas and ask them to come and do it for us. We got off our backsides and did it.
We started after being made redundant from a firm in Sheffield. We all put as redundancy cash together, about 14 of us at the time, and set up this little place we've got here now. Everyone put exactly the same amount of cash in, which was a predetermined figure, which we worked out from the lowest paid redundancy. We've learnt it's a constant struggle, and we've learnt to work together. I think that's one of the main things, working together.
Industries unconnected with steel are beginning to emerge in Sheffield, and it's a sign of the times, perhaps, that the first ever sponsors of Sheffield Wednesday are a kitchen firm. The workforce had an influence on the company's decision to put money into the club.
You can say considerable. Obviously, I should think, at the risk of being hung later on, but it must be at least 95% of the people who work in our organisation here in Sheffield are Wednesday supporters. Indeed, when we took a census on it and tried to find out who were the supporters, we found we had about 102% actually on that particular time.
One of the features of Wednesday's success this year has been their own 100% commitment. The players worked very hard, and stories have emerged about the manager's training methods.
Oh, yeah, and he must be 3 years fitter since Howard Wilkinson had him. I heard a story that when he took over, he called all the players in, 9 o'clock in the morning, locked the gates, and when they did come out, eventually, on their hands and knees, it was dusk.
No, it's not true. Let them out a week later. I think there was perhaps a change of emphasis when I arrived, and you know, we did perhaps work harder or longer because I thought that was the way to do it. Many ways to skin a cat, that just happens to be my particular way.
Howard Wilkinson not only demands effort from his players, but a recognition of the tie between club and cop.
I think a footballer has to be responsible for certain things in his life. I think he's got to be responsible to himself and to his manager. I think he's got to be responsible to his fellow professionals. He's got to be responsible to the people he works for, and he's got to be responsible to the spectators. Because whether I like it or not, whether the people who write in the newspapers like it or not, whether the players like it or not, professional football exists for the spectators. In a sense, it can't exist without them.
Unemployment in Sheffield is now almost 15%, and thousands of the people who turn out to watch them week after week are searching for a job and the money to get into the ground. Following their favourite team is just as important as it ever was, perhaps even more so.
I'm out of work more times than I'm in. And I go whenever I can. When he got promoted from third, I think I missed about 10 away matches. And that's a lot for me, we've been out of work.
Well, I was obviously missed the money, but I'll still go and watch Wednesday. But I'll not be able to get as many matches as I could do.
Yeah, it's a good start to the week when Wednesday win. Yeah, it cheers me up no end.
It's always been something to look forward to Saturday morning. Even, you know, you've nothing to do more or less during the week. And a Saturday morning you can go and let Steve on.
The club doesn't need reminding about the hardship many of its supporters are facing. So has it thought of having a concessionary gate for the unemployed?
Yes, that is something that's been thought about. I think the big danger one has is that whilst you would like to recognise the importance of people that are unemployed and would like to follow their favourite club, then as an administrator, one has to devise a system that is beyond abuse. And at the present time, we've not yet been able to come up with that particular system.
Wilkinson's cop consciousness, his awareness of player accountability, comes out time and time again in his weekly team talks. He uses it to lift morale. In March, Wednesday lost heavily in an FA Cup replay.
I've been amazed at the number of letters I've had and a number of people who've come up to me and said, the performance at Southampton was terrific. The result didn't reflect the score, but there you are, the result stands, I've told you that. So it does matter, they're not idiots. Who noticed these things, and they understood that at Southampton we got beat, but we didn't surrender. And I think that's important.
Industry isn't surrendering either, be it small engineering companies or large steel firms. New ideas and new technology, but a slimmer industry trying to do more with less. Out of the ashes of steel's decline has emerged Sheffield Forgemasters, the joining together of the private and nationalised sectors.
We are investing about £20 million at the moment in a new manipulator scheme for the heavy press, new machine tools, an upgraded melting shop, a productivity far higher than we've anything achieved before. So it's not all gloom, but the fact is that we need a lot less people and we need a lot less space in which to do it. It's not an easy task, but there's no doubt at all that one of the things we have got is a very skilled workforce. Workforce with a certain amount of self-confidence. We have to have that because some of the things we handle are very big, and the men themselves have to be confident in the way they go about their jobs, or we couldn't do it.
Keep going, finish! Well done, and again, go on!
The club's confidence in the future must rest with a new generation. It seeks to renew itself and strengthen its ties by sending its players into the community to coach.
Hopefully they enjoy it and they learn things from us, and if any of them then actually want to go on and become professional footballers, hopefully we'll give them some sort of little insight into what to expect maybe. I think the way the game's gone, you know, everyone at their club is very conscious, both on and off the pitch, our image and how we portray to the public, and we obviously try and further that image as best we can.
If they could come and train with us, you know, they'd soon find out how hard it is. I mean, like you say, the glamour and everything's there, especially Saturday. If you're winning things, you know, everybody wants to know you and everything.
There's no doubt that success of a football team in Sheffield has a tremendous fillip to the city. Everybody talks around it in the pubs and the clubs, and it's not just talked at a superficial level. So it's a knowledgeable position on sport in general, and when success comes, then there's no doubt about it, people of Sheffield really enjoy that success.
They do yearn for a winner. I've sat here on a Saturday afternoon and I felt a terrible feeling in trying to suck a goal into that goal post, between those goal posts over there, wanting a winner, wanting this club to be restored to its former glory.
Wednesday's last major win, the FA Cup, was in 1935. It was recorded for posterity with a quaintly patronising commentary.
In order to give you a shock, this is Tom Webster talking. We have now got as far as Wembley, which incidentally is much further than Chelsea ever got. Inside 3 minutes, Palethorpe scores for the Wednesday. And this made Sheffield almost a nice place to live in. Sheffield scored a second goal, taken at a distance in order not to annoy anybody in West Bromwich. Sheffield scored another goal, and everybody in Sheffield give each other a pocket knife.
And again, the enthusiasm of the people of Sheffield makes itself heard as the team appears on the town hall balcony with the cup.
50 years on, the club is climbing back into the big time, but the city's economic future remains obscure. Never again will Sheffield be able to rely solely on steel for its prosperity. The signs directed at the players in their dressing room could equally apply to the city.
We've lost something like 20,000 jobs in the steel industry. Well, you can't replace those overnight in new manufacturing. So you've got to look at all avenues now and broaden the industrial base. I think Sheffield's had the history of having a lot of eggs in one basket, namely the steel industry. And with recession in that area, it's causing a problem to the whole city. So we're trying to bring in new types of activity so we don't have all our eggs in one basket in the future.
The arrival of the Manpower Services Commission and Midland Bank headquarters signals Sheffield's move into the white-collar zone. But all that was on the back burner on Saturday, April the 28th, as Wednesday prepared for the crucial Crystal Palace game.
You go out now and people are talking about football, and it's not unemployment, and I mean it is in the back of their minds, but it's not on the front, which is nice because when you're out you can hear people say, well, what are we doing tomorrow? We've got nothing to do tomorrow. At the moment it's football.
The people of Sheffield are in for a treat over the next year or so, and I think the club are in for a treat as far as the supporters are concerned, the support they'll get.
It's been a long time, too long in my opinion, but we're going now. We're going now.
You can have your Liverpools, you can have your Manchester Uniteds. The support that Wednesday's got can outstrip both of them.
Bless them, their support has been fantastic, right through the dark days, and now we're reaping the benefits.
when I came here, like, the supporters were a big thing. Like, I once remember playing down at Plymouth when Sheffield Wednesday went up from the third, and the supporters, they brought all that distance. They were tremendous then, and they've been tremendous for the last 14 years. They've never waned, and that result out there was mainly for them more so than anybody else.
I think Sheffield deserves First Division football. I always have done. I think they deserve two good teams in Sheffield. I hope that Sheffield United can join us very, very shortly. But for the time being, we're just going to enjoy this moment.
To be a Sheffield boy who supported them, who played for them, to come back with the hope of taking them to the First Division and to do it in your first season. I mean, a very, very emotional moment for me.
I met it before, and
And so Sheffield Wednesday, one of the oldest clubs in the Football League, returned to the First Division after an absence of 14 years. For the people of Sheffield, at last, a success to celebrate.